Hey, we're the Ohio guys on location at Alma Con in Alma, Michigan, and today we're joined by Martin Billany, also known as LittleKuriboh.
That's right.
Yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. I love Michigan. This time of year it's really cold, but I wrap up warm and I come out here and everybody's really enthusiastic. And honestly, some of my favorite conventions and fans are in Michigan because like the first convention I ever did was Alma Con in Detroit, and it was my first like eye-opening experience. Like I never really knew what to expect from my fans, like in person, and the Detroit fans and people from all around the area who'd flown to Alma Con to see me. They gave me this amazing reception, and it seems to have continued, like, because I've been there for like 5 years running, and people have been just as enthusiastic to see me every time, and here is no different. It's a smaller convention, but the crowd feels just as big because of how enthusiastic they are.
What's it like writing for your shows?
Oh gosh, it's changed over the course of like the past 6 or 7 years. I used to just watch the episode and then I'd just sit down and write, based on what I remembered, I'd write like a 3-page script, sometimes in the course of one day. And there was no stress, there was no pressure, I would just do it and then I would put it online and I wouldn't think anything of it, like for the first 3 or 4 episodes. And then by the time I got to episode 6 or 7, I realized, oh gosh, there's an audience that's actually paying attention to what I'm doing. And so I started to think a lot harder about the script and what I was putting into it. And these days, what I'll do is I'll watch the episode or episodes in question, because if you've ever seen Yu-Gi-Oh!, they tend to go on for a while with the card games. Like, one card game can last 5 or 6 episodes, sometimes more. So it's like, sometimes I have to condense like almost 180 minutes worth of material into 5-10 minutes, which is really bloody difficult, so you have to pick and choose everything. So what I'll do is I'll watch the video and then I'll put bullet points of every like big moment that I remember from the plot, and I'll write those out in more detail, and then I'll try and link them all with like as much humor as I can imagine. And then what I'll do is I'll edit each shot out of the video like one by one, and label them whether a character is speaking or not. And depending on how many shots a character has where they're speaking, I will have to write more for that character than I would for another character. So the footage defines a lot of the writing that I do. Sometimes I'll get creative and I'll take footage from like a different episode and put it in that episode, just because I really want a character to say a certain line. But usually it's just take what's there, exaggerate it like crazy, and hopefully make it funny. And by the end of it, especially with it being a one-man show, I do the writing, the editing, the directing, and the voice acting, and I sit with it for a long time. Like sometimes it's upwards of 2 months that I'm sitting with one episode. So by the end of the whole process, I've heard these lines, or written these lines, or rewritten these lines hundreds of times. So you really get to start hating a lot of your material, even if you know when you first wrote it, it was great, or even if you were just happy with it. By the end of it, you're sick of it. You know, you're just sick of having to listen to the same lines over and over again. So it becomes very hard to actually know what is good and what isn't. So, but a lot of the times it's a case of just, you know, keeping your eye on the goal and just trying to separate yourself from the fact that it's almost like a job at this point. So, you know, don't think of it as work. Think of it as a hobby. And try not to. I used to place a lot of pressure on myself when I would upload these videos. I would upload an episode and then I'd turn off the internet for like the whole day, and then I'd come back and I would be like, do they like it? You know. So dealing with the reception to an episode has sort of changed, you know, my opinion on the writing aspect of it, because I overthink everything, and and the thing is, at the end of the day, it's a 5-10 minute video. It should be really simple to just blow one out, but it never has been, like for a long time. But, you know, ultimately, as long as people enjoy the finished product, and a lot of them seem to.
As a fan, I enjoy it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
We do enjoy it, yes.
Thank you. And this new one that I'm writing right now, not to go on a tangent, but this new one is a big deal. It's the final episode. It's the final duel of the season. It's what I've been building up to for like 3 years. So knowing that, and knowing that it has to pay off a lot of stuff, even if it's just a stupid comedy show, it's a lot of pressure, but you just try not to think about it. You try and just remember, you're making fun of a stupid show about card games, you know. You try and remember that, but sometimes it gets very big up here.
No, it's very enjoyable. It really
Thank
is.
You, man. Appreciate it.
What is the favorite anime Abridged series that you've worked on? A lot of people say it's like picking a favorite baby.
Oh my goodness. Are you saying what's my favorite anime, like the original show, or what's my favorite abridged version?
It's up to you.
Okay. My favorite anime that I've worked on an abridged series for, honestly, I worked on a Death Note abridged. I did a voice for Death Note, and I loved Death Note when it first came out. I like rewatching it, maybe like it a bit less, but I was really hardcore into that show, like for the first year or so, and getting to play a character in it has been was a really wonderful experience. It was a friend of mine called Michael Hecht. He goes by the name of One Kids Entertainment, and he did this Death Note parody where he had me playing what was his name, the impersonator guy who like when they're trying to save Matsuda from that, you know, the corporation meeting. I played like one of the con men, and it was just really cool to get to be in a Death Note thing, you know, in my mind, because I was still relatively new to voicing different characters in different shows, even if they were just parodies. So it was just really cool for me to sort of step out of my comfort zone. So first of all, I was psyched that it was a Death Note parody, and I was psyched that, you know, I was trying new things. So that was a cool experience. As far as favorite abridged series, you know, in general that I've worked on, it's really hard to not go with Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Like, because that's the one, everybody knows it. When Team 4 Star showed up and started doing Dragon Ball Z Abridged, they really evolved the genre. And it's weird, it sounds weird calling it a genre, but it really has sort of become its own thing. And what Team 4 Star did was not only did they create something that has been so universally accepted, even to the point that the original voice actors and creators of the show, or at least the dub, really genuinely love those guys and love what they do and think that it's even bringing a new audience to a show that, you know, could be considered dated. What's really crazy about what they did is that they sort of lit a fire under me and made me want to improve what I was doing. So in a way, it was really healthy competition. Not that we're competing against each other strictly like that, but it really felt like it made me want to improve myself, not just as a voice actor, but as an editor, as a writer. And they've inspired a lot of people, including me. So in a way, I kind of know how it feels to, whenever people come up to me and say, "Oh, I've always wanted to do an abridged series because of you," I'm like, I've always wanted to do one too because of the Team 4 Star guys, you know. So I'd say they were my favorite abridged series.
What's it like working on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged series? You've already touched on it a little bit.
I did touch on it a little bit about the stress of, you know, but honestly, I can't complain. I really can't. It's changed my life. It really has, and that sounds kind of pretentious, but I talked about it in my panel today at the convention that we're at, Alma Con. I was a very like reclusive guy. I used to, you know, have trouble going out and meeting new people or even going out into the world. So working on it and meeting the people that I've gotten to work with and people that have just enjoyed the show and been fans has really helped me open up and as a person and, you know, make other friends and meet people who have similar hobbies and similar likes and dislikes. That's what it's like to sort of be the guy who makes the show. But what it's like to work on it, it's stressful, but at the same time, what I'm doing is basically what I did when I was a kid in school. I used to do impressions of my teachers all the time to sort of make people laugh and ingratiate myself towards them. So the fact that I get to do this on a constant basis and make people laugh while doing it, I can honestly say that I've done what I always wanted to do, which was make a large number of people laugh. I've always wanted to just be able to do that, and this has given me that chance, and I can say I'm happy with that. I'm very content, and I've basically done what I've always wanted to do. So at this point, it's like everything's up from here, you know?
It's good. If you could be any of the characters that you've played in real life, who would it be? And you can mix and match if you want to.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody always says that's a hard question.
It is a hard question. If I could be any character. I mean, honestly, it would be hard pressed to go with anybody except Seto Kaiba, but I wouldn't want to be a jerk. I mean, even though I'd have the money.
That's why you can mix and match.
Yeah. If my wife were here, she would just be Kaiba. She wouldn't want to change anything about him. She'd be, I want the money. Give me the money, you know? So if I could change anything about Kaiba, I'd probably give him like Yugi qualities. I'd make him more like, if Yugi were the leader of a huge company and was a billionaire, that was who I want. I want to be Yugi in Kaiba's position, because I do respect the character of Yugi, because he's a guy who always does the right thing. He's always there for his friends. So ultimately, that's not the character that I portray when I play him, because I kind of turn him into a selfish jerk. But you know, if I could play a character similar to that and be rich, it would be wonderful. I would be very happy. My wife wouldn't care if I was a good guy or not. She'd just be happy that I was rich. I think she would agree with me if she was it.
Is there anything coming out that you can talk about right now, or anything you might have recently released that you can want to plug at the time?
I'm in a video game called Ghost Control Incorporated, where it's set in England, specifically London, and it's sort of like XCOM. Did you play XCOM?
No, actually, I didn't. I've heard of it though.
It's like a tactical, like a shooter. Oh, it's top down, and it's turn-based combat. And basically, I play all of the Ghostbusters. It's pretty great because the bloody Ghostbusters, but they're British and they have lines like there's a really weird line that I have in the game where I say something about the Germans bombing Pearl Harbor, and they didn't do that.
No.
I have to wonder if that's an Animal House reference or something. I don't know, but after that, I'm coming out with my new episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. That's probably going to be online in the next week or two. I can't really talk about any of the professional stuff I've recorded for because it's still under NDA. But there are some other shows that are coming out that you'll hear me in. I just recorded for a pilot where I basically played a German version of the Frieza voice from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, which
should be entertaining,
uncannily appropriate, you know. So yeah, if you have, it's a kids show as well. So
wow, okay,
yeah, I don't think kids will quite be as terrified as adults would be who knew Frieza. But yeah, look out for those, I suppose.
Okay. What was it like working on the Hellsing Abridged series and the Dragon Ball Z Abridged series?
Really, like I said, when I saw Team 4-Star evolve the abridging thing, not only did they make me want to be a better editor and writer, but working with them not only made me want to be a better voice actor. First of all, when they cast me as Frieza, I went out and bought a better microphone because I did not want to sound terrible compared to everybody else. So I bought a studio microphone, and I did all I could to make it sound as good as possible, just for quality's sake. But then they also made me, just by working with them, become a better actor. Like everybody always comments saying, "You played a great Frieza," and I told you about this before the interview. That's a big deal to me because that character holds a lot of weight, not just in the anime world, but in the world in general, because even people who don't watch anime possibly grew up on that show. And Frieza was one of the main villains and one of the main antagonists, and one of the things that people really remember about Dragon Ball Z in particular. And I didn't want to sell people short on that. I really wanted to create this character that people remembered and that didn't just seem like... I didn't want it to feel like we were poking fun at that character. Ultimately, yes, we are doing a satire of Dragon Ball Z, and we are parodying it. But I didn't want to feel like we were saying that character's stupid. He was played by a woman. How silly, I wanted it to be something that was genuinely terrifying, but also something that you would laugh at because he would say silly things. And so I feel like working with Team 4-Star on that, they got what I wanted to do with it, and it was like a sort of symbiotic relationship where they pushed me to the point where, they got me exactly where I wanted to be as an actor, so that I was ready to play this character who was, in my mind and in a lot of other people's minds, a really big deal. And I feel like if I'd worked with anybody else on that, or if I'd even tried to do it on my own, I wouldn't have come close to what we achieved with that character, working with those guys. I'm almost, I struggle to think of another character that I voiced that had nearly the effect that character did, because a lot of my characters are just known for their catchphrases or their silly voices. Frieza's known for being the character of Frieza. He just happens to be in a parody, and I feel like we really achieved something with that. And I feel it's mostly due to them knowing what they were doing, and the director, Scott Kaizeneko, giving me exactly what I needed and pushing me to the place where I could do that and give them what they wanted and achieve what I wanted to achieve. So working with them has been like the most professional thing that I've ever done, even including a lot of the professional work that I have done since then, So it's been, and they're the best people I know. They're some of the best people I know because they genuinely care about their fans, and they are passionate. A lot of people complain about the fact that they don't release episodes that often. I can't really talk about that, but honestly,
it's a lot of work too.
It is,
and
really
people
is.
don't realize that. They're like, oh, there should be an episode a week. It's like, it's a lot of work.
It's very easy to not see the process and think, well, why can't, if you could make videos, because I used to release episodes every week.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah.
because I didn't put any effort into them. You know, I used to just be like, okay, you know, I'll just record this in a day and I'll write this script in a day. But since then, you know, like I said, they evolved it, and they treat it like it's a professional product. You know, they treat it with the respect that, you know, something that I honestly would buy a DVD of their show if it was an official product. I don't think I'd say the same about my show. I don't think I'd feel comfortable like buying a DVD of something that is essentially just a silly little hobby. But they make their show special. They make it like something that I essentially liken it to Venture Brothers or like Archer or something like that. It's just as intelligent, and the reason it works that way is because the way they treat it they respect the source material, but they create these characters like that come out of their own writing style that I struggle to think of another parody online that is nearly as adept and as well thought out and as consistent as that, you know? So working with them is a huge honor, and knowing them is a huge honor. So I can't think of higher praise than that. I really can't.
This is a little redundant question, but Facebook, Twitter, social medias.
All right. Facebook, you just look on Facebook, Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged Series, in brackets, official. My Twitter is at Yu-Gi-Oh! TAS, which is YUGIOHTAS. And the website is YugiOhAbridged.com, all one word. And you can find all the episodes there, and they will be there all the time, unlike my YouTube channel, which tends to go down a bit. But my website will always have the episodes, and feel free to follow me on Facebook and Twitter.
We'd like to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're the Ohio Guys on Location. I'm Mike. He's Martin, also known as LittleKuriboh, and we'll see you next time.